moderating this panel with a bunch of great indie developers. My name is Wes. I'm on the games industry marketing team at Autodesk. I'm really excited to be talking to you guys today. We've been doing this documentary series now for about eight or 9 months. We've been shooting a whole lot of film on these guys, as they can attest to. And we've been producing short films, basically, on their studios, the games they made, the hurdles they faced. And we're working on maybe trying to make it into a full feature-length video. So I want to share with you the kind of thing that we're working on if you haven't seen them before.
What makes a great game is a great experience. It's something that makes your heart palpitate. You know, it's like you're involved with it. You want to live. You're living through that.
You can tell stories with games, and you can heal with games, and you can do all kinds of other things in gaming.
It's a pure expression. I'm able to think about an idea and create an entire world around that idea.
It's something you want to touch, you want to connect with. It's just a whole world of emotions, and you can see it everywhere.
Making games definitely makes me happy.
Seeing people enjoying the game makes you feel good. So we're game makers. We love making games.
Very kind. So if you want to see, we've actually got a whole bunch of videos that are already up, and you can already go check them out. Autodesk.com/makegames. They're all there. You can also just use the Google Webs. Probably find them that way too. They're all up on YouTube. You know, first, let's just have everybody introduce themselves. Tell us who you are, a little bit about your background, and how did you get to be where you are. Alana?
Okay, so my name is Elena. My background is in programming. I work as part of Modern Dream with Ollie about 7 years ago. I used to work for bigger studios, and we started becoming an independent developer full-time since January last year.
Hi, my name is Ollie. I work with Alana at Modern Dream. We set up, as Alana said, the studio at the end of 2013. We came out of a game studio that collapsed in on itself, and the industry was changing, but we still loved making games. We wanted to keep doing it, so we thought we'd strike out on our own and see if we could make it happen, and just been working on a new game, Helicopters, coming out soon.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I work alongside Jim at Barking Mouse Studio. I don't have the background that Ollie and Alana have. I came to games from by way of art school, and kind of fell in love with them, and fell in love with making them. So I just kind of decided one day that our next project would be a game, and that's how we got into game development.
And I'm Jim. I'm the other half of Barking Mouse Studio, and my background's more traditional software engineering, and then I have taught myself over the years, you know, how to use like 3D software and art and Photoshop and everything, and just had a passion for design and wanted to apply it in something that was really design driven, something that can be artistic and games. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Deuce. It's short for Deucica. I'm a 3D artist with Cupcakes and Critters. I've been doing this for a few years now professionally, working with there's a studio named Panda Panther that worked on cinematics for the Skylanders games, at the cutscenes, and we get to work on the characters, and I've always been very character driven since I was a kid, and this is perfect for us. It's gonna be good. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Stephen Colon from Innovative Inc. Basically working on Cupcakes and Critters. Background came from like modding, things like that, like PC games, total conversions, like that, as a hobby for like since I was like in junior high and things like that. I went into the corporate world, soul sucking sucked and everything. Like, you know what, I'm gonna follow my passion. Started a studio, but before I did that, I just looked before I left and see like what works, what doesn't work, things like that, and ended up with basically this brand, Cupcakes and Critters, and want to build a game that's not just fun and everything, but also marketable. Okay.
The thing that always strikes me when I talk to these guys, and really when you talk to a lot of people in the game space, but particularly indies, is that like the variety of backgrounds is just crazy. There's so many ways to get into the industry. This is like a general question. Who's your hero in the world of game making, or your artistic hero, somebody that motivates you?
It's a good question. That's a really good question. For me, it wasn't always in games. I love playing games. There are many games that I played that I didn't necessarily know who made them, but I always loved the idea behind them. I wanted to make games, and it was people in the arts that really inspired me. And there are critics like Simon Sharma, who opened up what art can do, the power of it. And I just thought, wow, that's really cool. I wonder if there's a way of combining art and games. And I think Simon Sharma, for me, just lit that match that really set it off, I would say. Curious to see what everyone else would say.
Right on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm a bit of a typical gamer. I've played a lot of, as a kid, I've always played a lot of Final Fantasy and Zelda because that's the game that my brother would buy and I wasn't allowed to buy any games. So I played a lot of that. But as I got older, I thought a lot more about the game design and I really loved the Katamari Delancey series and oh my god, Eco and Shadow of Colossus and just, escapes and everything. And that's really inspiring and I think that's and we need to have more of that.
Nice. I guess, yeah, go for it.
I guess coming from the PC background, I think like the typical Sweeney's and the Carmacks, the world, just in what they did for the industry and everything, that was like really, really inspiring. That's why I just got into it. I mean, also learning all these people that like the history behind it and all that. And then, but as I started getting into this, a big part of what got me into this was, of course, many of you like indie game movie, right? Blow, and Fish and all those guys. I'm like, you know what? If those guys can't do it, then I can do it too, right? So that's why we're here.
I've got another question for you, Steven. So you guys are really focused on community and building a fan base. How do you take a normal fan and kind of build that person up to be like a super fan, like an evangelist for your game?
For example, I'll give you an anecdote. We did PAX, last 2 PAX East, and with a very, very like broken demo or something, just to get out there and see who likes this. Because we basically have a very cute looking game. Like, okay, maybe girls will like this, but you have like the bugs in there. You saw the video, you squash them. It's like, okay, that's kind of nasty. The boys might like that, but maybe it's too cute for the girls. But what happened was that when people were playing it, it was like this weird middle ground where it's like cute but nasty came together, where it's quirky. Everybody loves quirky. And there's this one girl, she came by and then she was like, oh, how do I get that? And I'm like, oh, we're giving away to like post something like on our Facebook, Twitter, and things like that. And then she was like constantly doing it. And then finally she wanted they're making all these like videos and everything about how much they love the character. And then we finally got it. And then she got it. And then she stayed in front of like our booth for like 15 minutes. We didn't ask her to do it. She was like, guys, like play this game. Look what I won. Like that. And it's just, you have to really, really love, who you're making it for. And then I'm like, this is my audience. This is who love us. And it just comes naturally with that, because basically, when he shows like the genuine, like you care about them, and then we constantly like talking with them on the social media, with basically with Facebook and Twitter, and it has to be really, really honest with that, and just dealing with them at that personal level, I think it makes all the difference. Then they become totally
it's a lot
hardcore.
more than just reciprocity. It's like you're keeping up a constant and sincere communication with your community.
Right. We don't have a huge fan base like say like one of those big games that are out there or anything like that, but they're like, I'm not telling everybody about this, and they have. They're like, oh, I'm telling everybody about this. It's gotta go viral, things like that.
Yeah, it's great. So Daniel and Jim, it's interesting because you guys kind of came to San Francisco and kind of like built your own community. Like, what does it mean to you? Like, do you resonate with what Steven's saying? You have a very in-person kind of community interaction. Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, when we were in development with our game, we would take it around and we would show it off to people, and you would just see these people that would just get it. And that connection, I mean, for me, was really, it was important for me, and kind of a reason to keep making the game, because it's so hard actually to connect with people. Like, I feel that that's just not something we do often in life. And to see these people and for them to like get what I was trying to say was a really powerful experience for me.
I mean, yeah, and to add on to what you were asking about, like, I think there's two sides of it. There's the people you're making the game for, and then there's the community that you're making the game with. And I think that's something that we've really found, I don't know, like strength in, in San Francisco. Like, there's a really vibrant indie community here in San Francisco, and it's been really nice to be able to, share our trials and our successes with them. And I don't know, I think that's a really great, part about making games.
That's really interesting. It's because you said making it with them instead of for them. So all you guys released your game on Steam Early Access, and apart from really hilarious forum conversations that people are having about your game, which are awesome, you actually let people come in and play the game in advance of it being ready. Like, why did you decide to do that? And was it valuable for you?
I think for us it was essential to do that. It was our first full-time indie game, so I think, and we were a small team as well. And when you're a small team, you have to do a lot of things. So for us, it was important to get connected to the community, to the people that were going to play our game. And as a game developer, you have an idea of what you want to make, but you always put a lot of yourself into the game as well. But then you have always to remember that you're making a game for other people. Mm-hmm. So having the people's feedback and people's input straight away, for us, it was like 6 months into development that the game was in early access. And we learned a lot with that, and we could change a lot and implement a lot of the things. And it helps us to think, are we going to the right track or not? It's like, do we have to change things? I don't know, do you have more time?
I totally agree with what you're saying. We learned so much from the players, and I think some designers have an arrogance that they know better than the players, but from our experience, the players really know what makes a game fun or not. And I think when we put the game out in early access, we got a lot of feedback, a lot of criticism, and we took it all on board, and we reacted to it, and we implemented it into the game. Then a few months later, we went to Eurogamer, having implemented that feedback, big show in London, thousands of players coming by, and we got an editor's choice.
Nice. Congratulations.
From Stick Twiddlers. And I think that was directly attributable to the feedback that we got from the players that made the game that much better. It was really important to do it.
It's interesting. I like the thread because you're all exposing your games in different ways to people as you go. You guys had the early access thing, and then we've got just putting it in front of people physically and watching them play at big events like PAX, at smaller events that are very local groups. It's pretty key. It's interesting because people have a certain expectation of games, even if we label them as early access, and it's because games are challenging, to say the least, to make. You're almost like, I think somebody said it on the panel, I think it was Danielle, you survive making your first game. That was the best quote, and that kind of wraps it up. So, how do you actually finish your game, considering, not everybody's full-time? What do you think about outsourcing to get it done? Is that something that indies should do, or should you, maintain complete creative control and don't let anybody touch the content and it's all about you?
I have some thoughts about that. Actually, I think you should outsource what you can. I think outsourcing for us was really valuable in finishing the game, but what you can't outsource is the vision. So you can't outsource the creative idea. If I do that, then it wouldn't be the game that I made, but I can get help from all these people that make great assets and that make great 3D models. We had a phenomenal help with this great 3D modeler, Laura Jolly, to help us finish our game. But, the game was the vision that Jim and I had.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think? Steven, you have a really strong vision for what you're trying to achieve.
Right. Our vision was more building the game, when we put it early on, as a platform for a community to grow around. So we're outsourcing that involvement of development with the community. We go constantly asking them, hey, what do you guys give us ideas of different cupcake design as part of the gameplay? You design different cupcake characters and everything like that. And then they're like, oh yeah, make this the cute one, a monkey one, a doggy one, and things like that. And then we have them vote on, and then in terms of that I would say in terms of a vision, that was part of the vision too, involve the community in the first place. So in a way, it's sort of outsourcing to the fans and helping them get their input really early on, into what they want to see.
It's a good form of outsourcing.
Yeah, dude, because you're kind of part of the team that got built. What do you think about outsourcing and team building? And
I feel like it always feels like a full-time involvement. You never really go back to work and forget about the game you're making. It's always a constant process and keeping the sketchbook around and always writing that out and just making sure you catch everything that you think of. And I'm sure everyone has those practices in line. But yeah, I agree about outsourcing your vision. I mean, it's not so much about not being able to hover over someone's shoulder and be like, I don't feel comfortable with that idea too. I think it's just more of being able to feed off of each other's ideas better that way, and just that person-to-person feedback is just so much more helpful for the process.
Ollie, you're a man of vision.
Thank you.
Tell me about your vision and your team and how you built it and how they kind of like, I don't know, support what you guys think you want to build.
Yeah, I did have a very clear idea of what how we would be able to make. Having said that, what I really like is getting a group of really talented people together that you like and you get on with, and saying, we're going that way, how are we getting there? Because you can't plan everything up front. The world is chaotic. You're going to have things thrown at you that you're just not going to expect, and we have plenty of challenges. We didn't know how we were going to make this game a year ago. We had no idea, but you just have to say, right, we're going that way, how are we getting there? And if you've got the right people around you, you will get there. And I really like that collaborative process I love meeting people, I love finding out what they're about, and I love combining things that have never been put together before and seeing what happens. And people are just amazing that they can come up with things that you've never even considered in a conversation down a bar that can lead on to a year later becoming something real. For me, it's the most rewarding part of this, is just bringing people together, doing something that's never been done before, and that in itself is the journey and its own reward.
What are things that have like surprised you when you're showing people, or the feedback that they give you, or their passion or their emotions about what you're building?
I'm always surprised, I don't know why, but I'm always surprised how positive people are when you create something and you show it to them. I mean, we always worry too much, I think, about what people are going to say when you create something and whether they're going to pull you down and take you to bits. But I'm always pleasantly surprised how supportive people are, and I'd love to know what you guys find. But it's always like, if you put your effort and your heart and soul into something, more often than not, people are really supportive and want you to do well, and they're rooting for you. And I think it's a human nature to worry what other people think about you. And the more you can not worry about that, generally the more fun you'll have, I find. If you can be brave and put your ideas out there, and it's its own reward in that you will find that people support you, and you'll fail, you'll fall down, things won't be as good as you want them to be, there won't be that original vision that you had, it will change, it will mutate, but I hardly ever find anyone brings you down. It's always people are rooting for you as you do it, and I love that. I think that's been a real pleasure to learn.
So how do you guys like press on then? Like, we all have down days, and if you're working on your own project and you're kind of feeling by yourself, what are some things that you do to try to get through those kind of like darker moments and get back to that, I don't know, that positive arc that's going to help you get it done?
Oh, I think the only way we got through the making of our game is that Jim and I freak out at different times.
You planned it that way?
Yeah. Really,
You're morning, he's evening.
Yeah, but no, really, we will trade off like days of, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about this problem. And Jim will talk me down from it. And the next day it'll flip-flop. But it's so nice, at least for me, to have that support. I don't think I could have done a game as a solo developer. I did need a partner to do my game, or our game, I guess.
Just to clarify, it was not every day.
It's very kind of you to say that, yes. We're all very stable and emotionally fulfilled individuals, clearly.
Yeah, because I think there are enough high points throughout the development of the game, like we were talking about earlier, like the community is around, and they are very positive and very supportive of just the idea of creating something. And I think that in itself, can help even out, the ups and downs of just the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of important to remember that like we're making video games that are supposed to give people joy. I think the whole point is that you want to work on something that you're proud of, and then you want to see somebody say, like Howard said in the video, like, wow, that was really fun. I'm not even sure if it is fun because I've been working on it so many hours, but then somebody else says it's fun, and that's when you've made it. Yeah.
I think it's there are times that it's extremely hard making a game which is supposed to be fun, right? But I think for me there are three things really. One is the people, your team. I think if you have a great team, they will support you all the way through. also the people that work around you as well. So, for example, in our case, we have Arch Creatives, which is a collaborative space. So we have people that are making their own games, working from the same space. So those guys always support us as well. And when we take our games to shows like Eurogamer, like Ollie mentioned, and you see people having so much fun, you forget about the bad days. You're like, wow, it's amazing. It's really, truly amazing to connect, with people. And sometimes you're changing people's lives through the games that we make. So as game developers, we're very powerful in that sense, I think.
Yeah, do you think about that a lot while you're making the game? Like this could change somebody's day and their experience of whatever they're dealing with? Is that something that crosses your mind? Do you feel like this deep sense of responsibility?
I totally agree with you. If you have a great community, they'll support you. For example, when we did our first PAX, and we were like, no idea who's gonna like this game or whatever. We were just making whatever I thought was gonna be fun. Paid for the booth and everything. Like, holy crap, this is not gonna work. But I quit my job and I'm doing this. So it's gonna be a failure. But I went back to the hotel room and I'm talking about other developers. This is like a typical thing. Programming in my hotel. The GUI was made the night before, and it was like a really early demo. No sound at all. Holy crap, it's gonna be like a fully flop. You put it out there, and then I remember I was like sitting there programming. I was like, you know what, this is probably gonna be fun. So I'll have the hamster character you saw him in the video. Maybe if he did this or something like that, it's gonna be so cute and everything. And so then we put it out there and having someone in the little act of like she was playing it. And she was like, and then I'm like, oh, she's gonna do that thing with the hamster, and then she did, and she was like, oh, that's so kawaii. I'm like, yeah, that's right. She gets it. So then
nice.
That just keeps going on and on again. When you have that community going on for supporting you and everything. And I'm like. Like if I was about like a month ago, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired, but I want to get this feature done, and I want to show it off and make a post about that. I'm doing this for them.
Yeah, you kind of feed off their positive energy and it helps you refuel and keep going. Yeah, it's very energizing, I think. Because we're talking about seeing people's reactions in person. What's more important when you're managing your community? Is it online or is it being face to face with people?
I think for us, it was mostly face-to-face at festivals and stuff like that. I'm terrible at Twitter. I don't quite understand how it works. And we're, I don't know, face-to-face just seems like a better connection, like what you were saying before, Danielle. It's like, I don't know, a deeper level of being able to, share in the experiences of like someone, playing your game or sharing your story or, that kind of thing.
Yeah, to add on to what Jim said, we always said that we were making a game for introverts.
Nice.
And so we made a game that doesn't have any social features. There's really no way for it to go viral. There's no points, there's no leaderboard, there's no scores even in our game. And so it was really meant to be a personal experience. And so for us, having that personal connection to people was important the whole time we were making it.
Do you guys ever feel, so that, that means that you need to go places all the time. You're trying to balance like, well, do I need to be developing it or do I need to be marketing it? How do you balance that? Do you feel like it's a disadvantage to only be doing local shows? Does it like reduce your reach?
We did shows all over the world. We took the game to Tokyo. It was actually really important because it's a personal game. It was also important that it be universal. So there's almost no words in the game too, because it was and you can play the game with several different styles if you have mobility impairments, because it was important to us to broaden that reach and connect to as many people and to be, even though it was a quiet game, to be as inclusionary as possible.
Okay, so you guys have no social features in your game. As a small aside, not having points was key for me. I really appreciated Zen mode. The regular game was just too hard for me. I can't be Jim and Danielle's brains at puzzle solving. Steven, you guys have a completely different outlook. You're like, you're flipping it on the head, right? Like what's different from what you guys do compared to how they did it?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you want to make a game, like you say, for yourself, more emotional and an experience, something on a personal level, right? and that's great. You know, we'll probably need more of that because that sort of, I think, sets as the standard for like, you know, what's possible there, like, you know, and then people later on gonna take that and monetize it, right? You know, and that seems like what was usually, and I'll hear someone, you know, the innovation comes from the indie scene. They come from us, right? So, but I also don't want to be a starving artist. So I basically want to make a game that's, you know, sort of, you know, it's innovative. It's something I would like to play. I would like to play fun, but also, you know, make some money too. And I want to make this my career. And so we did like all the research, how to see how everything's going for like gaming as a service and everything, you know. And then you have like Steam Early Access. If you think about it, you know, you're doing updates and everything, looking at fans, but that's sort of like gaming as a service, right? And so I'm like, you know what, this is what's, you know, the current, you know, model now, you know, but, you know, I'm thinking like, is there a way to improve this? You know, what's the model of tomorrow? So I'm thinking it's more of a basically community as a service, where you basically build your game in there and you build it so that people come around it and it sort of like orbits around your game, and the people come there and they play for the community, stay for the community and things like that. So that's what we're offering. And so we're trying to do something a little bit different and establish it that way, so that we want to basically set that as the model for the future.
How do you not be a starving artist then? Once you get people there,
we put a lot of thought into what can, you know, basically be successful in the current market.
Monetizable?
So yeah, basically in a certain way. And there's so many like coercive monetization tactics. You know, basically all these, you know, mobile games are making a lot of money just turning up the pain and selling you the relief. And that's something I think works, makes them tons of money, you know, right now. You know, what we're doing though is having that way so that it's sustainable. You know, so that we put it out there. You know, it could generate revenue in a positive way that's long term. You know, because like I said, I want to make this my career. I want to keep doing this for years and years and years.
Does that mean revenue off of one player multiple times?
Yeah, just to be clear, yeah, we're doing free-to-play microtransactions. You know?
Interesting. Okay.
But and then that's typical, you know, top mobile game thing. But the trick is to do it in a way that would be beneficial to the whole community. But part of doing that is, again, I guess the way to look at it is the old models was the past model of yesterday was like the premium. Current model today is the gaming as a service. The model tomorrow, I think, will be more of a community as a service thing.
So
and
this
goes
is
a whole other. And we want to be that. And we want to actually establish the model of tomorrow. And we're doing something a little different. That includes the whole branding thing. That's basically going to the whole cheaper than free to play. You know, which, like I said, a whole lot of talk.
So we've got shots fired here because you're calling their model.
No, I'm not saying it's not working.
So what I want to know is, you know, like I've purchased your games as a one-off. What made you guys decide to do that? That's the way that I feel like a 90-year-old man now. Back in the day, we just paid to play the games. That's how I feel now. I'm like, just here's money and I'll play it. Why did you guys decide to do that instead of like this massive trend of like, you know, finding other ways to change your model?
So I think a lot of it was back to what we were saying before. It was we wanted to make the game that we wanted to make. And the game that we had in our minds, like we didn't really consider monetization. We knew a track to get there, but we didn't want to modify the game itself to get there. And so we felt premium was the best way to do that. And I feel like it was successful in that the track that we took to get there was to get it in front of as many people as possible through getting featured, which, you know, it was kind of like starting at the end and working backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, though, that I think, especially for indies and the smaller studios, there's actually a lot of room in premium games. It's correct. They will not make $1 million a day. But as an indie, I don't want to make, or I don't need to make $1 million a day.
That's true.
Right. I also don't want lots and lots of money.
But, you know, there's, and the other downside, I think, for, we wanted to make a specific experience, and we did have a lot of people approach us and say, hey, have you thought about free to play? Have you thought about ads? Have you thought about stores and all these other monetization methods, which I think are all valid, and I play games all the time that do them and do them well. But for us, since our vision was really kind of clear, we felt we had to follow that vision. Also, I don't like long-term supporting things.
So Netflix.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's the problem also with the premium game is that you have to have more content, you have to have, you know, you have to build this community, and I made a game for me because I'm an introvert, and doing a long-term community management is...
Is it a lot of people that are never liking or commenting on anything, but they're all lurking?
I mean, ultimately, I would say make what makes you happy, you know?
Yeah.
Premium game, if that makes you happy and that pays the bills, you know, you live in a life that you want to, you know, that's great, you know. And it's also, either way, it's really, really hard, you know. So this doesn't matter. We're kind of like, you know, kind of like screwed in the long run anyway, because just the pure number, 99.99% of, you know, indies fail, unfortunately. You know, and it's just, I'm keeping it real, right? I don't know if it's the exact number, maybe somewhere up there.
Don't let me out, man.
But basically, the market's like so saturated, great games, you know, and it's like, unfortunately, what we do is become commoditized. You know, like if you're a player, you're like, you know, I have like this great game that came out. I also have this other great game came out. They're both great games. Oh, you know, which one do I play? I'll just go for a cheaper one, you know. And that's the downside of what's happening. It's great that tools came out and everything, that so many people came out, but there's so many great games out there, you know, how do you stick out? So that's one thing that we're considering, yeah.
Do you think that's true, Ollie? Think people just take the less expensive games?
Not necessarily. I think some of my favorite games are free to play, like Hearthstone, Team Fortress 2. Love those games. I can play them for hours. I have played them for hours. They are very much free to play. You pay for the enjoyment you want to get out of it, and they're not exploitative games. I do object to exploitative games that don't give players value for money and a great experience to enjoy. The reason we went for a premium game on LA Cops is that we felt that the players we were making the game for would want to consume it in that way. They wouldn't want a free to play experience of LA Cops. They would want to just say, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to move on and do something else. And if we achieve that, you know, great. I hope they really enjoy the experience, and that would be what I would appreciate, I think.
You guys have kind of scaled up as you left Blitz and then started building all these other games. Did you approach the development and say, what's our monetization model? Or did you say, this is a game that I want to make and then figure it out afterwards?
Question number one, who are we making it for? Who will we be making this game for? And I mean, I think there is a valid way of making games entertainment as art. And I think we're not doing enough there, definitely. And I'd love to see more of that happening. What we're doing right now is we're making a game to make, we have an investor who's invested in us. We have a responsibility to get a good return on investment with that money. And that is something we take seriously. It is a business. But at the same time, we want to make sure that people are enjoying what they get. They feel some sense of enrichment from it, ideally. With premium, it's easier to tie that up, particularly because we're indies, we're on low budget. It's easier for us to tie that up, I think. It's not, we've done that in less than a year, and that's, you know, it's tiny.
It's extremely
time.
expensive, yeah.
It's tight. You can do it, but you've just got to be realistic about what you can achieve, I think.
You said something really interesting about budget. And you've been the lead on a lot of games, and you've put out like a whole bunch of games. How do you decide now? Like now that you're on your own, how do you decide on what your budget should be and how long you have to build your vision?
Yeah, it depends. I always think it's a little cold to talk about it this way, but it is about the players again. You think of them as the market, the addressable market. How many of them are out there, and how big that market is, what kind of things they're into, and it changes literally every 6 months, if not faster. And if you think it takes a year to make a game, you're going to be guessing a little bit whether they're still going to be interested in what you're making in a year's time if it's changed 6 months earlier. So you just have to take what you've learned, take your experience, see what's worked. I think what these guys talked about, talking with players directly, is really valuable. A lot of companies put a lot of money into quantitative data, what their name is, what their birthday is, whether they like ice cream or chocolate and that kind of stuff. But there's nothing like just talking to players and understanding who they are, what they're about, and what drives them. I think that's really important. And as indies, that's what I love that we're doing, is that we're making a place where they can come and hang out and have fun.
Danielle and Jim, you guys took a really interesting approach to making your game. And so it's like it was a time management thing, I think. Like, tell everybody what you did and how it kind of differentiates or differs from other people up here, because I think it's very unique.
Lost Toys was our first game, but it wasn't the first project we had worked on. And the kind of path we've taken to, getting to a sustainable studio is one of us will work a full-time day job, and the other will work on the project that we're working on at the time, and they will do that full-time. and then we swap. If it doesn't, get us to sustainability, then we try again and we flip jobs basically. And that seems to have worked. It gives you a break. It gives you a time to be able to work on a project you're really passionate about, but it also means that you can afford to do things like hire contractors or, travel to go to festivals or the other things that I feel like if we were working on a really, small shoestring budget with no salary, that I don't think we would have been able to achieve.
Yeah, I just agree with Jim. I think, like I was saying earlier, just having that kind of creative partnership has been really, really wonderful. We do this in everything because we're both engineers and designers. So what we do is, even with our engineering and our designing, like if I get stuck on a problem and I need, like, this algorithm just isn't coming together, Jim will help me and we'll whiteboard, or we'll pair program, or we will sketch out the next level together. For us, there's not really any, there's nothing that's not shared in the game development experience.
Interesting. Do you guys have the same experience? Like, you guys, Deuce and Steven, building your game together, and you have other people on your team as well. What's your collaborative experience like? Yeah, like how do you work with Steven?
We make an effort to meet up once a week, and we have, luckily Microsoft has organized this collaborative space where we can all get together and bounce ideas off of each other, which I think is super important when making a game. You need that, especially during those hard times where you find yourself frustrated. You always need someone else there to kind of like open your mind a little bit more. But I make an effort to go out at least once a week, which of course all week I'll be thinking about what I'm going to do next, but we're constantly shooting emails back and forth, and kind of feels like outsourcing in that sense. But we make an effort to get together and seeing each other, and together we conceptualize all of our ideas. Everything's just down to the personality, all of it, and we meet up with everyone at least once a month, if not at the same time. I mean, it's hard to get all of us at the same time.
Pretty much work out of our bedrooms.
Yeah, it's a lot of that too. And Google Hangouts and video chats, and yeah, it's just all the time staying in touch. He's become like my brother now.
So you guys are like, it almost sounds like you're constantly thinking about what you're working on, and you're constantly exchanging ideas. Yeah, even if you've got other stuff going on, you're like, it's always on the back burner, and then you have like these, it sounds like punctuated periods of huge productivity with the rest of the people that you're working with. Yeah. Does this make sense to anybody else? Is that kind of what you do? Is your game just always on your mind?
I think for us, it's quite hard to sometimes separate what is life and what is work, because we are constantly thinking of it, and there's new platforms that we have, to support, and new levels. But I think it's interesting, your relationship, being two engineers, because I think sometimes, especially in the beginning of the project, we are trying out different ways of making the game. A lot of the things I had never worked on before, like specific areas. And Ollie being an artist and me being a programmer, I was like speaking out loud, the programming part of things, and he was like, yeah, sure. But I think it's really important, to work with people that really care, that really get you. I think as a programmer, it's important to understand art and design. As an artist, equally important to understand, not programming, but at least a little bit of how everything is put together. Yeah.
So I just want to do one more question. It's specifically for Danielle and Jim. What's kind of like the revenue difference between tools you've made and the game that you've made? Like, how did you decide to do that?
So once we made Lost Toys, we were able to develop a bunch of like additional stuff around Lost Toys, and actually that's been pretty much the case with all of our projects. Like, we have this thing that we want to make, but in order to make it, we have to make other things. And then we were also able to sell those other things too. And I make more in the game, which is good. But the tools are a really nice additional source of income for us. And maybe one day they will make more than the game, and I can just release my games for free. I would be really, really happy. And we've actually talked about just putting the game out, because it's lovely, you know, when people play it and they get it, and you know, why not do that?
Is that the dream? To just pursue your
and just make stuff for people would be ideal. And I think we've arranged a lot of it, so it's possible in the future we could do that. I mean, we're not there yet, but yeah.
Is that what it means to be an indie? Is it pursuing a way to make games without being dependent on people?
I think it depends on the kind of games you want to make. For us, we want to make the kind of games that we want to make, and it would be nice to be able to do that and not have to care about, is this going to make money? Especially because a lot of games are so hit-based anyway. Like, it'd be really nice just to not care, you know, just to be able to be like, I made this because it is, you know, the best self-expression I could possibly create. And then, you know, to make revenue from other things, you know, and that way that those revenue-making streams, you know, don't interfere with that vision and that expression.
You guys have experience with that? Do you have tools on the sides, or are you focused on the game? And
I think we use a few plugins from the asset store. We build tools ourselves, but we don't purchase anything. I think we do everything in-house. But it's interesting because for me, making games is my passion, but it's also my life, and I need money to survive. So I think I wouldn't want to work on anything else to make money. I think for me, you know, we are not making games to make money. We're making games because we love it and because that's our life. And if I can carry on making games and have, you know, having my bills paid, that would be awesome. You know, so it's a different approach, I suppose.
I'd say it's interesting what you were saying about putting your games out for free. My opinion, I think what you created has a value. And one game we were working on before was like a small side-on running game, and we were showing it to people and said, well, we were going to put it out free because we had a job in the games industry. We didn't feel right about earning money on the side. And people came and said, you can't do this because it's like doing down what you've done, and this has a value. And so what we decided to do was raise money for charity with it and do it that way, and just respect the value of it in that way. Because it's like if you put it out for free, it suggests that you don't value it. And I think you would never feel that way about something that you've done. You put a lot of hard work and passion into it. I think your games look beautiful. When you create something, it has a value, and you should be aware of that and help it become more than it is. And if you put it out free, it could be doing that down, I guess, in a way. But,
I think the consumer market has changed enough where, like we were talking about earlier, the commoditization of games, where I don't think that users necessarily value the games less because they're free. Some of the most popular games on the App Store are free. I think there's been almost like a disconnect between what people value in a game and how much they pay for it. I totally see what you mean, though, in other areas. Like, I think a lot of times art can be more valued because it was more expensive. But I don't know that that's always the case in every medium.
it's interesting. We have a lot of people in the industry that say, that's not a $60 game. I'm not paying $60 for that. $2.99, that's ridiculous. I'm not paying $2.99 for that. That game was only 2 hours long. Gross, yuck. How do you deal with that when people are kind of like cramping your style?
Can I just say something? It's like, I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. It's like, for me, I'd rather pay for a game and have, even if the game is just 1 hour long, I'd rather have a fun experience, but a rich experience in 1 hour, and paid for the work that those developers did and encourage that, than paying £50 or how many dollars that is equivalent,
it's like 900.
you know, and for a 50-hour game that I'll never, ever finish, you know. I think people are busy, and I think as game developers we have to respect people's time, because I think I read somewhere that people pay with their money and people pay with their time. So you have to always think about that when you make your games.
But are you acute thinking about, like, are you tuned into that because you're a developer? Like, is that just a unique thing to people that kind of work in software development or game development? Is this something that other people don't think of?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you think about, people complain about Monument Valley, that they did an add-on pack, and I forget how much it was. It was something like £2 for the extra levels. And that's less. You go down to Starbucks and you spend a lot more than that on one coffee. Why? How does that work? And I guess it's that games need to become more established as we need to be creating brands of houses that create games, and we need to be representing those better. If we had the Starbucks equivalent of games, then there would be no problem spending $2.99. But I don't think we have that at the moment. It's like mystery cups of coffee. What are you going to spend more money on? Starbucks or this mystery coffee cup that you don't know what the quality of the coffee is like? And I think that's what we need to learn and get better at.
There's perfectly well-established economic model that explains exactly why people pay more in Starbucks than for games and everything. But again, that's another talk.
I read that paper. It's basically the marginal cost of an item. What was it? It was the price of an item that people are willing to pay approaches the marginal cost. And so because it's effectively free to distribute a digital item.
I saw this talk about this, I think it was an ex-professor or something, he was putting it like in a book, something came out in the 90s about basically the 5 levels of economic outputs and everything, from commoditization all the way to transformation. So that explains like everything, like why Blizzard on top and all that, at least from my perspective. So when you understand that at the end, okay, that's why, the people pay more for that.
Let's have a question.
In like a bigger industry or a bigger anywhere where you go to a corporation, you're kind of forced to work with the people you work with. You have no luxury, so to speak, of deciding the creative visions that you're going to mix together to make this indie game. How did you guys find the people that you worked with, and were there other groups that just didn't mesh? Not because you were necessarily bad, but maybe 2 ideas just were never going to be friends. They were never going to make a marriage and make this new game idea because they were so radically different. They needed another group to grow from. How did you guys find one another? How did you basically get your creative ideas together and make the teams?
Okay, I'll start. So I actually used to be Jim's boss at a different company, and I almost fired him.
But to your point, I also think they say that finding a founder to work on a vision together is like finding a spouse. It's like getting married, because you have to align on the same vision and the same goals. And I think one thing that we both benefited from is that we worked together on several projects prior to starting a game studio together. And I think that helps you to be able to like test out the waters and see was this the person that I think I can execute on this vision that I have. So yeah.
I think it's important. We are always looking for people really with the same core values as us in a way. You don't have to have the exact same creative vision sort of thing, but you have to have that hunger, that passion, to make a difference, to be part of something. So we are lucky to just be building the community where we live, and there's awesome people coming by all the time. But if you're looking for jobs, if that's your question, then I think it's reaching out to developers and showing how enthusiastic you are, and if you love games, then show it. I think it's more about personal skills more than anything.
Maybe I could give you some like actionable items. Are you looking at building a team yourself?
Not so much as that I've realized that building a team isn't so much a random act.
Oh yes, it's really hard.
It's very,
I can tell you how we found each other. Maybe that might help you get an idea. After we did the first PAX, I had like a demo. It was just me, my brother, and a friend of mine. And that was the team. Like okay, we have like a potential hit here. Let's actually get some real, people who know what they're doing. So what I did, being in New York, I looked up Meetup.com because I like, what's the local gaming, going on? What's the gaming scene like here? If you're lucky living in a big city, that'd be really, really helpful. And what I did was basically go to these events, just getting out there and meeting people in person. In New York, they have Microsoft is hosted. There's a local shared space and things like that. And then because we're indies, now is a great time for us. So the big companies like Autodesk, Microsoft, etc., they're all looking, to do business with us, right? And then so they have a lot of these things all over the country and probably around the world too. So I went to one of these demo nights. They have like a monthly demo night. People, local indie developers showing things. And then what they have is basically a networking things. I heard about this other gaming events, like it was like Mario Kart 4 tournament or something. And then I was sitting there. Yeah. So I was just playing there, and then she said, "Hey, you want to play with me?" Okay, it's fine. So we were playing together, and I said, "What do you do?" She's like, "Oh, you work on Skylanders and everything." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. Here's my card. Check it. What do you think of this?" And you show the card. So yeah. So just getting yourself out there, going online, looking for other like-minded people, other indie developers, things like that, because they all want to work with each other. Everyone's super friendly, So that's what's awesome. So, and then again, just get yourself out there and meet people, either online or locally. So I hope that's helpful.
How many people in here, so first, how many students do we have in the room? Awesome. How many people do we have that are running independent studios? And now all combined, how many people here self-describe as indie? Interesting. We've got an interesting overlap. Okay, pause, yes.
How do you guys like seed the community? Like you have 0 fans, like how do you go from 0 to 100 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like how do you get that initial ball to start rolling and snowball down the hill?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Where do you start from? And we're in the UK, and there are many indie groups around the country, and you just start by meeting up, and then you show them what you're doing, and you get some feedback, and if you can win over one person saying, oh, this is fun, I like this, then, okay, you've made a start, and then you just go to 5, you go to 10, and when you're ready to go a bit bigger, you tackle all your friends and family, you go to a show. I'm pretty sure in the US there's going to be plenty of events where they have indie sections that you can apply to. Like in Eurogamer, there's the Left Field collection, and we just actually we started like that, yeah. And it was just an alleyway, very cheap, and it was white walls, and you had to paint your game on the wall, what it was about, and that in itself, I really recommend doing because it's a lot of fun, and you meet a lot of people that are doing the same things as you, and suddenly you start meeting people who are doing the same things, and you start talking, and then you have this problem, and say, oh, I can help you with that, and then I need to get more users. Oh, well, there's this game event happening in this bar that you can go to, and you can show your game, and suddenly you're up to 20, then you go to 50, then you go to 100, and suddenly you're getting followers on Twitter, and you get an article in Kotaku, and it just goes, it goes on and on and on. It's lots and lots of little consistent steps over time.
It sounds like you're advocating just, again, proactivity and not expecting one huge windfall of attention.
Yeah.
Just keep grinding at it.
Consistency.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a bunch of little drips for us. Although I think our big kickstart with a fan base was we went to PAX, and so we were able to. We're in the mega booth there, and we were able to show our game. Thousands of people, all at once, and at least one of them is going to like it.
I guess that's what we're just about out of time here. So, community matters. You gotta get out there. You gotta be in your local community. You gotta try to be online as well. I think that's the point that we've been driving to today. So, I want to end by saying thank you to everybody that's on stage. It's been great having you here. Thanks to everybody that came out to join us, and check out autodesk.com/makegames. We've got some really nice videos that you can learn a lot more about these guys through those videos, and then that's where we're going to keep pushing them as we make them. And if you want, we'll probably be milling around this general area in just a moment to answer any questions you didn't want to ask in front of everybody. So, thank you.